Welcome in, everyone. Happy to have you here with me. I'm giving you my prediction for Team USA's World Baseball Classic roster for the 2026 iteration of the tournament. Just a little bit about me. I love this tournament. I think it's the greatest. I think it's the greatest tournament that baseball has to offer, even more so than the MLB postseason. I love the passion that it's played with. I love the energy that teams have. You just see things in here that are just unlike anything else that the sport has to offer. So I've been working on these names as a fan of Team USA for a couple weeks now, probably longer than I would care to admit, to be honest with you, just because it's something that I like to do for fun. And what I've been able to kind of build with this roster, I think it's worth sharing, which is why I'm creating this video. And full disclosure, I do intend on doing some more of these. So if you're a big fan of the World Baseball Classic, if you love international baseball, then stick around, man. Hit the subscribe button because we're going to be going through a couple of other teams. I'd love to do the DR. I'd love to do Venezuela. I'll try to do Japan. Some of the teams that don't have players within the MLB are a little bit more difficult to get stats and information on. And I'm not somebody who keeps track on on players in other leagues, but I'll do my best. I'm sure I can at least knock out a couple of other teams, and I'm going to be going through a couple iterations of this roster. It's my intention to modify it as we get more information throughout the 2025 MLB season because, full disclosure again, some of these guys are struggling a little bit right now, and there are definitely some people with better numbers out there. So I don't want to make this about guys that aren't on this. I just kind of want to make it about the guys that are, and I'll give my reasons as to why I think they should be included on the roster. And, just take everything here with a grain of salt. We're just going to be going through position players to start off because, honestly, if I got into pitchers, holy cow, man, that's an entirely different video, especially the bullpen. My word, trying to predict those guys is outrageously difficult. If you haven't tried it before, I'd recommend it. It's an exercise in near futility. But here we go. Let's go ahead and start off with our team captain, the guy who's already committed to the team. You know him. His name is Big Aaron Judge. Got the Captain America shield for him because that's the role he's got to play. He's got to lead Team USA, not only in the locker room, but in on-field production as well. His numbers are absolutely insane for this year. I mean, to have a 5.4 WAR already, and I think that's according to BaseballReference.com. I use Baseball Reference and Baseball Savant to build these. So, I know that there's some differences in how they calculate WAR between the websites, but for all intents and purposes, this guy is on a WAR path right now. And I'm sure if you're a Yankees fan, I know a lot of you are out there, you're in love with the season he's having. He might be a very real chance that he gets another MVP trophy if he keeps going at this rate. I don't see how he won't. But yeah, I mean, great numbers all across the board. It will be his first time in this tournament. I remember last iteration of the tournament in 2023, I was so disappointed that he wasn't going to be on the team. I think his agent, because he was in free agency at the time, and his agent said something about him wanting to be the mother hen of the Yankees during their spring training. And I don't know, man. To me, that just sounded super goofy. So yeah, we got the mother hen with us, Aaron Judge. I'm pumped to have him. I know D-Rose pumped as well. I'm sure you guys are too. I mean, he's the best player in the MLB right now, in my opinion. And I would rather have no one else being the captain of Team USA for right now than him. So as we go through this roster, I'm going to kind of reveal it position by position in terms of who I think should be the starters. And, I said it before, I'll say it again. Take everything here with a grain of salt. Obviously, the starters are subject to change. All the roster spots are. Some guy could get injured. Some guy could start performing really poorly, or somebody else could start performing really well and kind of force themselves onto the roster. This is going to be pretty fluid. Like I said, I intend on doing multiple iterations of this. So At catcher, again, I don't think this is going to be a big surprise. I also want to add that when I go through these positions, I'm going to be doing it in who I think is kind of the most predictable to least predictable. It's generally going to be in that order. So for catcher, I think we all know who we would want to play there, and it's got to be Cal Raleigh. I mean, his numbers are actually extremely similar to Aaron Judge. When you look at his home runs, his RBI production, this guy is an amazing baseball player, and he brings so much value to the table being a switch hitter. He's not a great defensive catcher. I know that the outs above average stat doesn't really apply to catchers. At least I don't think it does, because Baseball Savant doesn't have it. So, if it does, I guess I'm just stupid. But I didn't see it. So I think that in terms of, if I remember correctly from his baseball reference page, he's really good at framing and not much else, which is fine. Like, I don't need a big time defensive catcher for the WBC. They're nice to have. Like, my mind flashes back to 2017 Yadier Molina for Puerto Rico, and he was just an absolute menace behind the dish. But would I rather have an absolute menace behind the dish or a guy who can just cause chaos when he's in the batter's box? Like, for me, when I think of this tournament and its history, so much can change from one swing of the bat, right? Trey Turner, 2023, against Venezuela, absolutely changes the course of that tournament with one swing of the bat, hitting a grand slam. I'm not saying Cal Raleigh will do that, but if you did, don't say I didn't say that. But I think that this guy really has the potential to impact the game in the batter's box. And for that reason, he's got to be here. Like, his potential effect on this team is too large to exclude him. And I want him to play as much as possible. Quick thing about catchers, if you didn't know, I believe that Team USA has taken 3 for every version of the tournament. So I feel like maybe there was one year where they didn't. I'm trying to remember which year it was, but I can't off the top of my head. I think there was one year where they only were able to take 2. But, there's a lot at play here with politics from the MLB in terms of who's allowed on the roster and who isn't. There's also some insurance things, some health insurance things. So for that reason, some guys are also going to be excluded. And I'm not saying that Cal Raleigh fits any of those bills. I think that he'll be able to play so long as he stays healthy. Knock on wood that this guy does, man. We need him. I just feel like he may not play every game just because of how the catchers are used and the restrictions that teams provide for them. So we're going to have a very, very solid option for backup and a very, very solid third option, in my opinion. I hope he can hit in the DH spot as much as possible if he's not catching. But ultimately, if he is catching, you can get a little bit more from your DH spot. So that's why I have him here. Realistically, he's probably going to play catcher every other game. That's kind of how they did it for, 2017. I remember that's how they did it for Luke Roy and Posey. I think for 2023, that's kind of what they did for Smith and Real Muto. We'll see. I would imagine that the usage is going to be pretty similar, at least for this position group. So, shortstop, there's not even really anything worth saying here. We know who the shortstop is going to be. It's got to be Bobby Witt Jr., dude. Look at that outs above average stat. 15, are you kidding me, Bobby? Bobby Baseball out here just is an absolute vacuum at the most paramount position. Some would argue on the baseball field, I would certainly, but at the very least on the infield. He's the best defensive shortstop in the MLB. He's got the second or third best sprint speed in the MLB if it's not number 1. And his bat is really good. He's just a baseball player, bro. You have eyes, you can look at the stats yourself, And I'm a big OPS guy. He doesn't necessarily have the highest OPS, but it doesn't like. I'm not worried about his ability to get on base. I'm not worried about his ability to slug at a high percentage. I I think Bobby Witt Jr. is another guy who, again, thinking about this tournament in moments, like if there's two outs and Bobby Witt Jr. gets a single, Bobby Witt Jr. is the kind of guy who can go and steal second base, potentially even third, especially if you're playing against a weaker catcher, which most of the Latin American countries have a pretty strong catcher, and obviously Japan does too. But I'm just saying, like, this guy is dumb fast, man. So I think speed kills, and Bobby Witt Jr. has the potential to really cause problems for opposing teams. Every guy that's starting in this lineup and even on the bench has that potential. So for that reason, like those reasons, those collection of reasons, he's got to be here, man. Like uh, you're going to see later that in the infield I have a lot of shortstops. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I mean there's no sense in hiding it. I think most people who construct their dream rosters for this are picking a lot of shortstops to fill the infield positions because just right now, what we have in terms of options that are like true second baseman, for example, it's not exactly weak, especially in comparison to other countries, but it's just not as strong as it could be. And you gotta, I mean, why wouldn't you go as big as you possibly can? So, if we're going to continue with this, let's go to the outfield, left field. I actually do think this one's a little bit more of an obscure pick just because the guy is so, he's like literally not talked about enough at all. I love Kyle Tucker. By the way, our first returning player. Give that salute, young man. I'm happy to see you back for Team USA because he's such an under the radar guy, but he's been so consistent throughout the entirety of his career. I just feel like, I mean, he's like he's like a quiet superstar, and he's always been that way. When we look at his defensive skills, I mean, I don't think he's going to blow anyone away. He's not exactly the fastest person on the field. Doesn't necessarily have like the ability to make a catch that's going to change a game like Adam Jones did in 2017, but Kyle Tucker is too consistent of a baseball player to leave off this roster. And where he has that experience of being in the tournament before, I just feel like it's really it's significant. When you hear about Mark DeRosa talk about this, he always says stuff like, we had Paul Goldschmidt come in day one in the locker room. He was telling us, I don't know why I just gave him a southern accent, but you know what I'm saying. Like, he harps on that a lot when you listen to him speak. So I just feel like he's going to go for guys that he has a history with, guys that know the environment, know how, I guess, like how nerve-wracking it can be, and guys that are going to be able to hit the ground running. Kyle Tucker gives you that. And he gives you a lot more, too, if you look at his stats, if you look at his numbers, in terms of what he's able to do on a baseball field, what he's been doing on a baseball field for a good number of years now. In my opinion, he should start. Some of these people you can kind of like flip-flop back and forth on. I think at the end of the day, you got to ride the hot hand. So if Kyle Tucker goes in and he's not exactly performing up to snuff and we got some other options on the bench, then yeah, let's go to another option on the bench. And I would say that for pretty much everyone outside of maybe like 3 guys that I feel like no matter how they're doing, you got to leave them in just because of like the fear factor that they can cause other teams. So moving on, we're going to go to right field now. And it was hard to pick the 3 starting outfielders. But when I analyzed, I picked Judge and Tucker first. Obviously, that's why I have them earlier in the presentation. So I'm sitting here looking at right field. Pretty much all the outfield options I have on this team are right fielders, and I just felt like we needed a little bit of defensive boost just in case. So I went with Corbin Carroll. I feel like he's not necessarily the greatest defender. Like he's not Pete Crow-Armstrong out there, but like he has the ability to affect the game in a positive way on defense just because of his speed alone. He's got a good glove. He's got a great arm, a very underrated arm. And I think he gives you kind of that balance of someone who can still really mash at the dish, but also who has a solid glove in the outfield. And again, I said it with Bobby Witt Jr., like speed kills, man. And if you can have like two out of the top 4 or 5 fastest guys in the MLB on your starting roster, then why wouldn't you do that? I mean, could you imagine the terror on the base paths that these guys can cause? It's too tempting. It's too attractive to pass on. So you factor in all of that and just the monster year that he's having, man. 20 home runs already for Corbin Carroll, and he's not like a big guy. So I'm sure you Diamondbacks fans aren't necessarily surprised. You might be a little bit surprised after his 2024 season. I certainly am. But this is as good as it gets, I think, for Corbin Carroll. We might potentially be watching, a top 2 or 3 season in his career. I think there's a chance we could even be watching the best one. So I feel like he's got to be on the team, man. And low key, we kind of got to keep him off another roster. I think he's eligible for Team Taiwan. And they're kind of a sleeping giant as is. I really don't want him to start playing for them because I just feel like selfishly I want to see him in the Stars and Stripes, but also logistically I don't want Taiwan to potentially get stronger to the point where they can actually compete with a Team USA in an elimination game type environment. I mean, I'm all for like competition of the WBC. That's not necessarily what I mean, but what I mean is that I don't want Taiwan to beat a team that I really care about because Corbin Carroll smacks like a 3-run missile over the wall. So, with that being said, again, I promise I love Taiwan. I love all the countries that participate in the WBC deeply. They all have a very special place in my heart, but I want to see USA win the gold at the end of the day. So, when we look at second base, I thought that when I was doing this originally, I was like so much smarter than everyone in the room with the guy that I picked to go here. But now I feel like every roster construction that I've seen has this guy at second base, and it makes sense. All right, let me let you in on a little secret. Every infielder that I have outside of first base, they're all shortstops. Okay, so this guy is a shortstop, and I probably just gave it away. It's Mookie Betts. Again, we're getting a returning veteran from last version of the tournament, and he's not exactly having a phenomenal year, but it's Mookie Betts, man. So if Mookie Betts says he wants to play for Team USA, like, am I going to deny him that opportunity? Plus, if you watched his podcast episode with Mike Trout, it released like in the summer of 2023 at some time. It was after the World Baseball Classic, like well after it. And he and Mike Trout were talking, and they were both talking about how they wanted to do it again. You can tell that he really enjoyed the tournament. I can't imagine him not getting called just because, again, of that like legacy factor that he has, that leadership factor that he has. If you have Mookie Betts on your team, how much more attractive is it for someone else who's new, who hasn't done it before, to come and participate just because they want to work with Mookie Betts, because they want to work with Bobby Witt Jr. or Aaron Judge or some of these other guys that we've already talked about. I do think that there's a little bit of a boys club mentality, and I'm not here to say that that's wrong or right. I'm just saying that I think it's reality. So Mookie Betts helps foster that environment. He's a winner. Okay, I mean look at the history that he has in the MLB. This guy stands out in his ability to succeed, both with personal accolades and with team accolades. This guy knows how to get things done. That's a guy that you need for the team. And I mean he's a good defender. He's got a good bat. It's not exactly the greatest year of his career right now, but I trust Mookie Betts in his longevity of success enough to include him as a starter on this roster. And I just think that he should be here. Like, hands down, he should be here. And he probably should be starting. So looking at first base, man, we're already getting pretty deep into this roster, huh? Looking at first base, I think that we got mainly three options here, in my opinion. The guy that I'm going to decide to go with for the starter he's just too hot right now to deny. I feel like he's putting on a show so much to the point where even though I personally might want someone else, I can't reasonably make this without saying that it should be him. That person's not Freddie Freeman, by the way. I've seen the All-Star voting. I know that all you guys love Freddie Freeman. I love him too. What a great guy. But he's going to play for Team Canada. So it's not him. But rather, it's Pete Alonso. Again, another returning vet from the last iteration of the tournament. And, I mean, he is just tearing the baseball a new one consistently in this year. I mean, good for him. Like, I was kind of wondering if he was going to start falling off in his career, but I mean, he is rock solid, man. He's fine. He's improving, and again, I don't want to make it about who's not here. Obviously, there are some people who you could argue should be at first base, and there are great options at first base for Team USA. There always will be, just because of how deep the position is. Pete Alonso, in my opinion, is the best first baseman slugger that USA will have available to them. Where he's done the tournament before, I think he's going to do it again, and I think he should. With the season he's having, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Moving on to third base, this is definitely a hard one to defend here. I don't think a lot of you are going to be a fan of this, unless you really like birds. It's going to be Gunnar Henderson. I don't know what to say about his numbers. 8 home runs is good. 22 RBIs is not, especially in 260 at-bats. But, guys, I'm not going to knock Gunnar Henderson for having a weaker offensive year when the entirety of his team is having a weaker offensive year. I mean, maybe he would have more RBIs if his entire team wasn't struggling so damn bad. He has a -5 outs above average, but he is the only shortstop that I have on this team that has substantial experience at the MLB level at third base. He's got a great arm, and I don't know how -5 outs above average rates at third base, but I know it's different. I mean, at least I really hope it is. Otherwise, I kind of sound unintelligent right now. But I feel like he offers a lot. He's obviously always been when he came up to the MLB, I felt like he was a pretty raw player. But, I mean, he's a left-handed bat. He's got good pop. He's got good defense. He's got experience at third base at the MLB level. There are some people who you could potentially argue. I think they're on the roster as well, on the bench. And if you're arguing someone should start at third base who's not on this roster, then that would be something that I would like for you to leave in the comments, because I don't know who else it could be outside of the guys that I have. Gunnar Henderson may not necessarily be the most attractive option right now, But when I analyze him, I analyze the entirety of his career. And I have to look into the future a little bit in terms of what Team USA is going to be built on for the next couple of years. We know that D-Row said in 2023 that he wanted to take Bobby Witt Jr. because he felt like he was the future at shortstop for Team USA, man. He was right. Like, he was 100% right about that. And I don't know if Gunnar Henderson is necessarily the future at third base for Team USA, but I do believe he is a mainstay for the future of this tournament. I feel like he's the guy to go with here for a multitude of reasons, all of which I just mentioned. And to me, that supersedes the weak-ish year that he's having. Really, if you look at his numbers in a vacuum and you don't attach his name to it, you'd probably look at it and be like, this guy's a decently productive player. I wouldn't mind having him start for my team. Certainly that's how I feel, man. I'm a Reds fan. If Gunnar Henderson played for us, he'd be one of our best players right now. So I feel like he might be getting over-scrutinized just because of the superstar, I guess, label that he's been given. You know, cover of MLB The Show and everything. But he's a recognizable face. He's a recognizable name. That's not why I have him here. I have him here because I believe in his ability to perform. And I believe in his ability to perform for the rest of his career and during March of 2026. So the last spot that we have is not pitcher. Like I said, I'm not doing pitchers right now. And if I was, it was going to be Paul Skeens, mostly because he's already locked in, but also because I believe he really is the best option. Like I said, man, when you start to look at the pitchers, wow, it gets pretty shallow pretty quick. I'll just say that. I want to analyze the DH spot. Okay, and there are some big thumpers that you could put on here for Team USA. Particularly, I think that, again, this position might be occupied potentially by Cal Raleigh with somewhat regularity during the tournament, perhaps every other game. But I think this next guy, you have to find a way to get him playing. And I can't really justify it with the other outfielders that we have because I feel like they need to be playing in the outfield. But there is a guy that needs to be here, that needs to be in the lineup card. And it's undoubtedly, to me, got to be Mike Trout. So take that in for a second because I know some of you, may feel like that he's not having necessarily a great year. And obviously he's, just like always, he's been a little bit banged up. But, man, if you look at his production in a vacuum and you don't attach it to his name, these are decent numbers. And when you attach it to his name, some people might feel like, oh, well, Mike Trout should be doing way better than that. But I'm just thinking, hey, man, like, Mike Trout, with how injury-prone he's kind of been throughout his career, I'm pretty impressed that he's still performing anywhere near the level that he is. He's got such big brand recognizability that I feel like he's got to be playing. I believe he's already on the roster, if you want my honest opinion. I know that when D-Row announced Aaron Judge as the captain for Team USA, he said that he called Mike Trout to tell him. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, why would D-Row call Mike Trout if Mike Trout wasn't going to be on the team in general? Like, hey, man, I just wanted to let you know Aaron Judge is going to be captain of the team and you're not going to be on the roster. Like, no. I think he's already on the team. I think a lot of these guys are already on the team. There is one potential guy that I feel like might also already be on the team that I don't have here, which, if that comes to fruition, I'll own it. But I just can't help but think of the impact that Mike Trout had on and off the field for last tournament. Again, I mentioned something with Mookie Betts about this boys club kind of mentality, and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative connotation. I think that it can be a really good thing. I think Mike Trout definitely gives you that ability to make Team USA more attractive to some guys who may be kind of on the fence about it. When you hear that you're going to be playing with Aaron Judge, you're going to be playing with Mike Trout. You're going to be playing with Mookie Betts. That means something, man. Like, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Again, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? So, are his numbers blowing people out of the water right now? Definitely not. There are some guys with really good numbers. But this isn't necessarily just merit-based from the beginning of the 2025 MLB season to right now, because I feel like you can't be that short-sighted. You have to analyze the X factors. You have to analyze the longevity of success that some guys have had throughout their career. And I trust Mike Trout. I trust him to be able to perform. I trust him to get healthy by March. And if he's ready to go, if he says he's going to do it, if he wants to do it, then he's doing it. And he's playing. He's got to play. Those are my guys that I would have starting in the lineup. And honestly, like the batting order, I mean, do what you want. You could probably just pick names out of a hat, really, outside of like the first three hitters in the order. I feel like that could be fine and work fine. We got everyone on here is able to change the bat with one swing, is able to change the game with one swing of the bat. And they all are guys that their team relies on, their respective MLB club relies on to perform at a very high level to kind of carry the team and put them on a path of success. When you put them all in one room together, it might be a lot of personalities, but I think a lot of these guys are also, respectful of each other's game. And I just feel like if this is Team USA's lineup card, I mean, I sincerely mean it. I know some of you might throw out the DR, some of you might throw out Venezuela or Japan, but I'm taking this over all of them. All of them. Without a doubt in my mind, no second thought about it, because you have dude after dude after dude here. And it's outrageous that the USA has this many options. When you look at some other countries, I'm going to be frank with you, like there are really good options at the top, but it can kind of get depleted once you go down a little bit, and the depth gets a lot lower and a lot more shallow than you would expect it to be. Team USA doesn't have that problem, especially not with their bench. So, again, addressing the thing with the three catchers, I'm taking Will Smith, I'm taking Adley Rutschman, and this guy on the right here is Pete Crow-Armstrong, which I will now be referring to as PCA for the rest of every video that I ever make for the rest of my life, because Pete Crow-Armstrong is just way too freaking long to say. Will Smith is having a monster year. PCA is having a monster year. Adley Rutschman is having the complete opposite of a monster year. I would say he's having a bad year, if you want me to be honest. So I don't really feel like I have to spend too much time talking about Will Smith. If anything, if I were going to talk about anything with him, it's why isn't he starting, which essentially catcher for Team USA, like I've said, is 1A, 1B. Will Smith is the perfect second option. Like, I don't know how many of you follow the Dodgers. I imagine a few of you do, at least. He's not necessarily highly rated for defense amongst catchers in the MLB, but he's not bad. I mean, he's serviceable, and more than anything, man, he's got an amazing bat. So give me the Kentucky boy. Give me him as my 1B option behind the dish. And again, a guy that's been there before, a guy that knows the format of the tournament, knows the intensity that's required for it. I trust Will Smith to be successful on this team. Adley Rutschman is a guy who I feel like needs a little bit of selling. And I see his switch hitting ability. That's obviously attractive. We know who he's been throughout his career, and he's been a great baseball player. He's been a great baseball player. So don't just isolate your judgment of him to, 4 months of baseball? I don't think that that's fair. It's not even 4 months. It's more like 2.5 or 3. So don't put him don't like beat him down into the ground because he's having a weak first half of the season. We have a lot of baseball left this year, and I sincerely believe that both Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson will bounce back. Now, I don't know if it'll be in time for the Orioles to make the playoffs, but I do really believe that they will pull it together, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. This is more of an investment thing because, again, I look at the future of Team USA, and I mean, there are some good catching options out there right now. Particularly, it was hard to leave off JT Realmuto. I know that I said I wanted to kind of talk about some other guys later in a different video and why they're not here. It was hard to leave off JT just because of the presence that he carries and the history with the WBC already. But I'm making a pick for the future here. I have to. And Adley Rutschman is the future of Team USA. I really believe that. He may not be the 1A catcher, but I do think that he's going to grow to be 1B. A lot of the good catchers in the MLB right now that are American just don't have a lot of years left on the plate, or their success is, the window of success has been so small that I'm just not ready to put them here yet. I think that Adley has been a guy he's played in the postseason. Not that the Orioles have had a lot of success in the postseason, and that's no shot at the Orioles. I just think that he's already experienced a lot more than most baseball players. And he has that kind of pressure put on him to perform by the fan base. And for the most part in his career, he's been able to handle that. PCA is a guy that I feel like is hard to not insert in the starting lineup just because of how solid he's been. I mean, I wouldn't say too much of one thing is a bad thing, and I do think that you could probably, there's an argument there to put him in over Kyle Tucker in left field. Well, actually, I'd probably put him in center, and I might move Carroll to left and put Judge in right, but, that's all logistical at this point. I'm just kind of... Yeah, I think that PCA needs to be on the team. His numbers are actually strikingly similar to Carroll's. If you haven't seen that, we'll see it later. But isn't he like the fastest runner in the MLB or something? Again, man, the more top 5 sprint speed guys you can have, I see that as a good thing. He's got like the best glove in the entirety of the outfield and all of MLB as well. So I feel like he's just too much of a weapon. Also, I don't know if any of you saw Sean Spradling tweet about Mark DeRosa kind of saying that PCA might have to be wearing the stars and stripes for the WBC, and I completely agree. When I was doing this, he was my last roster spot just because I was kind of looking at what the team needed, the roles that needed to be filled, and for me, it was hard to leave off some other guys, but he just checks every box. I mean, he's a true 5-tool player, and I sincerely believe he could be starting for this team come March, and I would not be upset about that in any way. We have 3 more spots on here, so let's analyze who we picked for that. I got Bryce Harper, I got Trey Turner, and in the middle there, smiling nice and big, I got Jacob Wilson. So Bryce Harper obviously committed to do it last tournament, couldn't because he got Tommy John surgery. I think he's going to be there this time. I think he's going to get the invite. He's been such a clutch performer throughout his entire career in the postseason. He lives for the big moment, and you got to in this tournament, just like how Trey Turner did in last tournament. With Trey's history and Bryce's legacy, I think you got a match made in heaven for our Philly boys to come and participate in this thing. I think they both got to be there. And with how things are going right now, there's a pretty good chance that we may need Trey Turner to swing at third base, which I wouldn't be upset about at all. He's definitely been treated as a utility guy before in his career. I know that, didn't he play outfield a little bit for the Nationals when he first came up too? So that's another added bonus about both of those guys, is that if needed, they can swing to other positions. They're very versatile, and I like that about them. Jacob Wilson is this is a big time buy. I'm bullish on stock of Jacob Wilson because I just feel like he's been too good to ignore. Hopefully this doesn't look foolish in a couple weeks or months. I really don't believe it will. And maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid on the highlights I've watched of him, but like this guy is to me legit. And there's not a large sample size there right now. But guys, I mean I have eyes. I've played baseball, not at a super high level, but I've seen enough of it to be able to tell, I think, when someone's potentially fraudulent. And I just don't feel that way about Jacob Wilson at all. I feel like he's a gamer. And again, I mean I don't know how like positionally flexible he is. I obviously don't watch the A's, and I mean if you do watch the A's, wow, God love you, man. That must be pretty hard. But I feel like Jacob Wilson is a perfect player for this team. He's got an amazing bat. He's got decent defense. He's a pretty average player when it comes to some other things, but I don't think it would be Team USA without Jacob Wilson. I'll just say that. So, sorry to some other guys that didn't make the cut. There are certainly some people that may feel a little bit slighted watching this. If you're fans of some teams that you feel have guys that should be considered for this. And I do agree that they should be considered. Just as of right now, I don't think that they should make that cut. And we'll go into that. We're going to go into that in a future upload for sure. So we'll see if it's the next one. I might go through pitchers next. I don't know. You'll find out together with me when I upload it, I guess. This is the entirety of the roster that I have in terms of position players. So that's a pretty deep bench, man. You pretty much have everything you could want. You got lefties, you got elite speed, you've got a clutch performer, you've got two backup catchers because of MLB teams and their freakiness toward their guys, I guess. But yeah, this is a very, very, in my opinion, solid rollout. And if Team USA were to be decided and revealed tomorrow, I think this has got to be pretty close to it at least. I mean, maybe like 2 or 3 guys are switched out. Maybe like 3 or 4. It's not like I'm in D-Rose head. But I do think at least 60 to 70% of these guys are in. And again, if you want my honest opinion, I'm sure a lot of them already are, and we're just going to find out later. But we'll find out together. These are the stats. If you really are into this kind of thing, you can probably tell just from the way how I talk about some of these guys that I'm not necessarily like the biggest stat-oriented person. Again, just because you have an OPS, and I love OPS, just because you have an OPS over 900, I'm not going to just like throw you onto the roster because of that. There's so much more at play here, especially with this beast of a tournament, man. You never know. You never know what's going to be thrown your way. At what point you're going to get kicked in the teeth. And if you don't get kicked in the teeth, it's just because you're getting stomped into the ground and you're out in the first round. So I feel like this team gives you the ability to both deliver and take a punch. So I got to go with them. I got to roll with it. And yeah, I really feel like we have every hole filled. I didn't really make a script for this. If I had, I probably would have told you why I felt like some guys were specifically chosen for their role. But I can tell you that everything I did here was deliberate. I didn't just throw names on here because I'm a fan of them. I didn't just throw names on because they're a superstar or whatever, or because they're having a great statistical season. I measured a lot of crap when I did this, and I put a lot of time into it because for some reason, I just really care about it. And maybe that's silly, but I just really like this tournament. And again, I would advise you that if you like this tournament too, and if you kind of like to do this stuff too, then stick around, man, and leave some comments. Tell me, like, challenge some things to me. If you think a guy should absolutely be on here over someone else, tell me. Like, I want to hear that, and I can potentially address that in a future video. So give it to me. Like, tell me what you think. Tear it down if you want. Tell me it's great if you want. I think it's pretty good. So I'll see you guys in the future. I got to get going right now, but we're going to be doing some more of these. So stick around.